us for I don't even know how many years. She is truly remarkable. And I'm gonna just read a little bit about her, and then you're gonna be able to listen to her, and I'm telling you, it's really special. She is the CEO and founder of SkyeTeam. Her name, Morag Barrett. And let me ask you this question. Have you lost sleep worrying about how to deliver a tough message to a colleague? Or have you thought that you'd nailed the project only to receive feedback that caught you by surprise and stung you a little? Or recognize that who you know is more important than what you know, but realize you don't know who knows you? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you're going to enjoy the conversation with Morag Barrett. Morag will share how we can't be successful in business or in life without successfully cultivating our professional relationships. Morag is a celebrated keynote speaker presenting at conferences and events globally. As the founder of SkyeTeam, an international executive development company, she supported the development of more than 10,000 leaders in 20 countries and on 6 different continents. She already has an award-winning author of 2 books, Cultivate, The Power of Winning Relationships, and The Future-Proof Workplace. Her new book, You, Me, and We, Why We All Need to Be a Friend at Work and How to Show Up as One, will be published in the fall of 2022, which should be pretty darn soon. She's been featured by Entrepreneur.com, Forbes, and the American Management Association, among others. She's a member of the 100 Coaches organization formed by Marshall Goldsmith. She's also recognized by Thinker 360 and People Hum as an HR thought leader to watch. If that hasn't tired you out yet, she is the mother of 3 boys, all of whom are over 6 feet. She ballroom dances with them. She's a classical, is it a pianist? Are you a pianist now? Or tuba still? She is a dear friend. She is special. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat. Please give a nice, warm South Florida round of applause for Morag Barrett.
So yes, on the instruments, those and more. Nice to see you.
Special.
Special. And a stalker of UKG, what can I say? So it was interesting, as I listened to that introduction, it explains everything. Because as I lay there 3 weeks ago, looking at the sky and realizing that I couldn't move, I also realized I didn't want to move. I was tired. I had literally hit the wall. And it wasn't because I'd done everything that Tony just mentioned in his introduction in the last week. But much like you, when the pandemic hit, the only thing I felt that I could control in that moment was my work. The world had gone to hell in a handbasket, turned it upside down and given it a damn good shake. We were reinventing how we were going to do business and go to market. Work was my anchor. Work was the way I could feel in control in a world that was out of control. But 3 weeks ago, I hit the wall. And I went and laid on the patio furniture on my deck, so not literally on the deck, but I was looking up at the clouds. Ooh, a rabbit. Ooh, a polar bear. And I could physically feel my heart palpitating. I had sweaty palms, I was tingling, and I was on edge. And it was not a good feeling. How many of you have hit the wall or come close to the wall in the last 2 years and felt that moment of stress and anxiety? Well, thank goodness, you've helped me. I can feel it now, even as I tell the story. The stress goes down a bit because I realize it's not just me. And here's the thing, my affirmation that I shared at the end of at the table is that I'm all in. I am living life to the full, and so when I come to a screeching halt, I feel it and others notice it. But thinking about it, the last 2 years with the pandemic, I'm tired, you're tired, we're tired, Is it any surprising? We've had to reinvent how to do work. We did the emergency exit from the office. We all ran home. We went to the kitchen table, the card table, the office if we were lucky enough to have the space at home to do that, and tried to work out whether our bandwidth would be enough to serve the needs of the business. Could I even get access to all of the software and the programs and so forth from home without the VPN and all of the passwords? And then, of course, we had to deal with, now my kids need to get onto the interwebs. They've got schooling. How are we going to do that? I had family back in the UK who were suffering health issues, but here I am living in Colorado, feeling helpless. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't get to them. They couldn't even get to their GP. It was one of the most stressful experiences of my life. So coming back to work, this was my oasis, my anchor, my calm. And so as SkyeTeam, as we put our heads down and reinvented everything that was in that moment, transformed from being in person to how do we do this on Zoom, buying the lights, camera, action, we found that our workload actually increased. We were now doubling up. We had the MCs and the equivalent of the AV crew. It added complexity and steps to our work process that hadn't been there before. But it worked. We all did it. We're all here now. We navigated that, and it became part of how we do business. Until 3 weeks ago, where I couldn't be all in anymore, and I hit the wall. But here was the tipping point. As I lay there, and I remember I was sitting there looking at the clouds, my phone, because one is never very far from one's phone, was sitting on my chest. I couldn't even open it. I didn't want to look at it, but it vibrated. Bzzzt. And I ignored it the first time, and then it bzzzt again. And I remember looking at it, and it was Slack. How many of you use Slack? Yeah, if it's not email, it's Slack, it's text. They can hunt you down no matter where you are, even when you're having a crisis on your patio. And it was Eric from my team, my right-hand man, my best friend at work. And he had noticed that my Slack had gone from a little green button to showing that I was away. He noticed that subtle change. He noticed that subtle change and realized that for a Tuesday afternoon at 2:30 p.m., this was unusual. And so this, bzzzt, bzzzt, was Eric calling to see if I was okay. Think about that for a moment. I'd been lying there maybe 30, 40 minutes, and he had noticed my absence. He lives 20 miles away. He had noticed that I wasn't available, that something was up. Would somebody notice if you stepped away? When was the last time somebody called you to check in on how you were doing, not just what you were doing? How many had a call like that this week? Anybody call you this week? Hands up. 1 or 2 hands have gone up. Well, that brings joy to me. How about within the last 2 weeks? How many have received a call checking in to see how you're doing? A couple more hands. So with our research for the Ally Mindset Profile, and I was just reading a report from Better Up, both were indicating that in the last month, 35% of the respondents to our Ally Mindset Profile said nobody had called to check in on how they were doing. Now, the counter question was, has anybody called in and to check in on what you're doing? And the answer was a heck yes. But we wonder why we have a crisis of connection when we're not reaching out. If we're not paying attention, is it any surprise that stress and anxiety is going up? We're seeing the impact of a lack of connection and a lack of belonging with increased turnover and the great resignation or the quiet quitting, a phrase I absolutely loathe, and those symptoms impacting our organizations every single day. But if 35% of the people filling in the ally mindset profile are telling me that nobody is calling to check in on how they're doing, my challenge to all of you was, when was the last time you picked up the phone and did an Eric? Just called on a colleague to say, I haven't seen you for a while. We haven't been in a Zoom meeting for a while. How are you doing? I know you've just taken some time off. How are you doing? That is how we start to make the deposits into the relationship bank account that can mean the difference between I fit, I feel like I belong, or I quit and I'm going somewhere else. As I continue with the research, these statistics I'm about to share come from McKinsey. They've been doing a lot of reports on the importance of friendship and connection at work. This week I received a report from Gallup, and I'll talk more about the Gallup research a little later on. And better up, I have a copy of it. I'll send you the link afterwards. Community and why connection matters in the workplace. But the reports that I've been reading paint a very bleak picture. 75% of those responding to a McKinsey survey said that interacting with their boss was the most stressful part of their day. Can you imagine? 75% saying that interacting with their boss is the most stressful part of their day. 44% are saying that they don't trust their co-workers. And certainly working in a hybrid environment, I'll say I'm guilty of that early in the pandemic, because all I know is I was working from the spare bedroom. I'm running fast, I'm all in, I'm trying to ensure that SkyeTeam is going to be successful, that we're going to navigate this change, that my client experience is going to remain top notch. And in those moments when you're thinking, is it just me? We seem to be, as humans, to be hardwired to assume the worst. That whilst I might be working hard, Eric's got it easy, or Ruby has the slightly lower workload. And when we are left with an absence of information, when we don't have a foundation of trust, we assume the worst. It tends to be a negative story, one that makes others the villain and us the victim. So this epidemic, this lack of trust in our co-workers, especially when we're working in a hybrid environment, is something that we need to pay attention to, both in the stories that we're telling ourselves, but as HR professionals, in the stories that we're listening to as people come to our offices and either knock on the door or send us the Slack message saying, do you have a minute? I want to check in on X. Hey, are they carrying their load? We need to turn these stories around so that we can increase trust, so that we can reduce that stress and anxiety, and ultimately work together on our purpose, whatever that might be, in taking our products and service to our clients and our communities. But the kicker of them all, the one that left the biggest angst in my heart, was this statistic, again from McKinsey, around, do I have a best friend at work? And 20% of employees are reporting that they don't have somebody that they can turn to in times of emergency. Whether that is the project that's about to miss a deadline, or whether that is I'm lying on my patio feeling stress and anxiety, who do I call? Who's going to give me an empathetic ear? Who is going to help me to navigate the challenges of not just life, but life, work, and home? We had an epidemic of loneliness before the pandemic. We now have what I would call a crisis of connection that is facing us as we learn to step out from our homes, to re-engage, and to re-engage with our workforce and to re-engage with our communities. So I started with sharing a little bit about what it felt like as I laid on my patio 3 weeks ago. I'm going to pause here and ask for those of you who are listening and joining us virtually, and those of you in the room, just to share at your tables, when you're feeling disconnected, when you don't feel like you belong, what are the emotions that are triggered in you? How does it feel when you are disconnected. Take a couple of minutes at your tables, and then I'm going to come and ask for you to share some of those emotions. Start wrapping up your conversations. Thank you. Wow, it was interesting because the question was around what emotions have you experienced, but it very quickly got on to the whole mindset, skill set, and emotional set needed for navigating work. SkyeTeam has been a virtual company, i.e. my team and I all worked from home and traveled since I formed it 16 years ago. But what I found was that choosing to be remote and having to be remote were two very different experiences. And so again, relearning how do you build a high-performing team when we can't actually physically get in the same place? How and when do we use technology to help versus hinder were things that we had to make explicit versus implicit. So I am going to come around the room. I don't have the Jaws music, dun-dum, coming. But I am going to come pick on a few of you just to get insights. I'm starting here with Chris. So introduce yourself, and what were some of the themes that came out from the conversation here?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris. We were talking about remote work, right? I briefly worked for a company during the pandemic remotely, and I have to say that I did not enjoy my experience. You know, as an HR professional, I missed out on a lot of the human interactions that are part of HR. So unfortunately, I couldn't relate, and I ended up moving to a different job, fully in the office, which I enjoy with my two colleagues here. You know, we spend a lot of time together, but my experiences were not that positive working remotely, believe it or not. And it was hard to disconnect from work at times. So, yeah.
So give me 2 or 3 emotions that you then experienced when you found it hard to connect. How did that make you feel?
Well, in terms of security, you feel insecure, like, will I have a job? You know, when the first minute they cut some of these remote jobs, I'm going to be one of the first ones without a job because I wasn't even in the same state.
Okay.
So, you know, you have that sense of insecurity, will I lose my job, you know? It was hard to communicate, so I couldn't build those relationships, you know, with my colleagues.
All right, thank you, Chris. Do you want to pass that over and introduce? Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Farah,
Thanks
HR manager for Crescent Heights. I found that for me it was very, very difficult to work remote. We went completely home during the pandemic, and I just felt that if I was at the office and I needed, you know, the assistant or I needed my supervisor, I would just walk right to the office next door, and it was just easier to reach out to them. But when I had to pick up the phone and call them, it actually made me think about it 2 or 3 times before. Is this really, really important? So that kind of isolated me a little bit more than I wanted to be. I did not like being home. I'm a hands-on person. I like being in the office. I like the idea of the separation. You know, you've got your office here and you've got your home life here, and I just need to keep both very separate. It's just something I need for my sanity. So it didn't help me at all.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, who else? Emotions and experiences that you've had when you feel disconnected. Thank you. Look at that. Pick me, pick me. I like you. There you go.
I think let me introduce myself again. My name is Mary Mateo. I'm with One Spa World. And we were discussing how we feel like I personally was like in an island all by myself because I tend to be a very extroverted person. And she was explaining to the group that I ended up having to have somebody on Zoom with me, like at the beginning of the pandemic, just working because I just didn't want to be like so disconnected from the team. So we would just sit in Zoom, everybody doing their own thing and just looking at each other, and we'd look up and then we'd be like, oh, hey, you're still there.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. So Google has the same. They have a camera in a break room, which when I first went there felt weird. But if you're remote, it means that you can be on camera when people are in the office 3 dimensions and connect with people you might not otherwise meet. And even Eric and I would joke, we'd slack each other and say, do you want to get in a Zoom room and just listen to each other breathe? You know, because I know it sounds creepy, but it is a way of, when we couldn't physically be working next to each other, at least we could, and then we could have the banter and the conversations and the, hey, what do you think of this slide design or whatever, but that immediate gratification in a different way. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Go on.
And I think Letty also, well, I'll let her talk about her experience.
No, she says no.
Well, she also mentioned how you felt like you had to work more to justify yourself for being at home because you felt like guilty about being home.
Yes. So how many of here ended up working more hours working from home? Yeah. See, feel the pain. And of course, part of the challenge with the return to office, and when I used to commute into London, 90 minutes either way, well, I can't work on the train. The idea of coming back to the office, who's going to lose out there? Yes, I've got the schlep, but the company is losing the maybe 60 minutes of extra work that I was giving in. And this is where we need to start rethinking the how and where of work and the emotional part, because this has a huge impact on our productivity, our engagement, our intent to stay. I'm going to look now in my back third. Who else has something they want to add? All right. Because it's a long walk. I get my steps in this way.
Good morning. I'm Jasmine Gonzalez. I'm the Administrative Services Director for the town of Cutler Bay. And at the table, we were discussing how anxiety starts when you feel disconnected, you feel out of control, and then the anxiety spirals into something like depression or just feeling like you're so disconnected you have no power to do anything if something were to get out of control or something.
So all of the research is showing stress, anxiety, mental health are important topics that we as HR professionals, we as human beings, need to be paying attention to, not just for everybody else. Because again, as HR professionals, you have been giving. And then you might turn and look inward at what do you need and give to yourself. We need to make sure that we're at our best so that we can be at the best to help and support others. So let's just take one more. Who else has got something to add in terms of the emotions that you've experienced coming over? There you go.
How are you? Tatiana Milan. I'm with AWS, American Welding Society. So we were talking on the table about just the general feelings that we observed as, HR practitioners in the workplace, and definitely one of them is loneliness, right? Like you've seen, and obviously we've seen ourselves, how mental issues with employees have increased. At least I've seen that. And so I think one of the tasks that we have is to make sure we have, some form of balance between that flexibility, a work-life balance and working remote, but at the same time creating opportunities where people can connect once again as human beings, individuals, because there's something about human warmth that you just don't get over a Zoom. And we heard some people say, I hesitated calling someone out of the blue, right? Because it's not the same, when you just walk into someone's office and say, how you doing, how's your kid, and how's this? And it's just so natural for us as just social beings to do that. So I think we're missing that, I think at work and to some degree at home as well, with social media and other things. So there's a lot of factors, I think, influencing this, but definitely COVID did not help.
Yeah. And that ripple effect is going to be continuing for years to come. Oh, did somebody else have something? Oh, go on, please do.
I've spoken to employees who have mixed emotions. They have fear of coming back and other people and longing to do so. So it's confusing.
It is confusing. It's both. In fact, that was going to be one of my comments on the next slide, is that we're both at the same time excited to be in 3 dimensions. How many of you, this is your first foray out, or one of your first conference events since the end of the pandemic? Okay, so it's kind of exciting. You probably thought, what am I going to wear? I have learned during the pandemic I can no longer do heels, so I now have the most clunky but comfortable shoes ever. But we think about, well, what do we wear? Because let's be clear, casual dress is now what? PJs on the bottom, pretty shirt on the top, probably not appropriate for the Biltmore. Then there's the, do I still fit in the dress? Because the COVID curves went outwards versus, well. So we've got all of that. There's the fear, anxiety, and then it feels like our small talk muscles, I know mine have atrophied. So I had the opportunity to be in Nashville twice in July, and as part of the 100 coaches. So Marshall Goldsmith, friend, guru, mentor, one of the leading executive coach in the world. And he has formed this group called 100 Coaches, which is now about 350 of us, handpicked industry leaders, leaders in our own industries. And this was our first opportunity to meet in person since the pandemic. And what it showed to me was 2 things. Firstly, that my small talk has atrophied. I need to relearn that score. Oh, you too, excellent. But also my mental and physical energy for being around real humans. Exhausting, there you go, exhausting. I can't do it. So if you need to go and lie down at the back later on, you're fine. Okay, we'll go and join it. But we need to build our stamina up. And back at the workplace, this happened almost organically. It happened in the break room. I saw you in the elevator. Perhaps we went for lunch. Maybe we went for drinks afterwards. So we need to relearn some of these behaviors. And as you say, there's the excitement, but also the fear, and of course the, oh, is this going to be a super spreader event? Am I going to leave and get it again? So we've got all of these competing emotions happening for us. And ultimately what's at stake, all the research shows, is collaboration and teamwork goes down when we feel disconnected and isolated. We've already seen from your brilliant example how information flow slows down because I hesitate to call you because I'm telling a story that says, well, you're busy and I'm going to be interrupting you. Whereas had we been in the office, I would have walked past your cube a few times until you finally made eye contact and then said, oh, do you have a minute? But I would have got the answer sooner, and in doing so, felt more present. And here's the irony of loneliness. Loneliness has nothing to do with physical proximity. If you've ever sat in a busy cafe, surrounded by hundreds of people, I remember this because I wrote a blog post about it, Connected but Disconnected. I was sitting in a coffee shop in New York City, literally surrounded by hundreds of people coming and going. But I'd never felt so lonely and isolated, even with all those folks around me. And it's how do you bridge that gap so that we can ensure that we've got the collaboration and teamwork, we've got the creativity and innovation, we're having employees who are willing to step up and take informed risk to drive your businesses forward, to invest in that sense of team. And as humans, we are hardwired to connect. For millennia, that's what kept us safe. As we came together to hunt, to gather, to fish, to hang out, it is that sense of connection that builds communities, builds the tribe, and builds the sense of belonging. But when we're working in a distributed environment, we have to be thoughtful and deliberate. And so that trip to Nashville with 100 coaches showed me just what is possible. Because when I walked into that group, many of the folks I was only meeting for the first time in 3 dimensions, the relationships we had built had been all through Zoom. But I'm telling you, it was like greeting long-lost friends, meeting family. We had an immediate, deep connection that, but for our Zoom calls, would not have been there. So having been myself a skeptic of online facilitation, virtual facilitation, can we do it? I have lived it, I have seen the impact that when we are intentional, when we are present, when we are thoughtful about how we use technology, we can build powerful relationships that stand the test of time, whether we eventually or do not eventually meet in 3 dimensions. I'm working with a client right now in New York City who is a rapidly growing startup. And as they've been migrating back to a return to office, a Tuesday, Wednesday cadence for that particular company, they came to the realization that 75% of their employees had onboarded during the pandemic. How many of you onboarded during the pandemic? All right, so how was it for you then? What worked, what didn't about your experience?
Hi, good morning. I'm Tama Rusk. I am from DX Agency, meeting all your digital marketing needs.
Nicely done.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I am the first ever HR of my company, and this is also my first ever HR role. Managing people 27 years. I came from hospitality.
Yes.
And so nonetheless, it was brand new for me, but I do all my onboarding, everything before the new hire comes in. And actually, I will tell you that what worked for us was giving them all the information up front. They love that. Mm-hmm. At least this generation or this wave of new hires. What I don't love and what I'm now doing in my 90-day check-ins is they said, we would really love an onboarding buddy, like someone to check in with that's already in the company. So that's what I learned.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Who else? I saw some hands up here. So tell me about your onboarding experience during the pandemic.
So I literally onboarded on a Monday and was sent home Tuesday.
Oh, so you didn't even know where the restrooms were or the printer?
I had nothing. I met my team for, not even my full team, actually. That's Miss Rosie over there actually substituted for my own director, who was on vacation when this all transpired.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea who the teams were. I never got to meet people until months later.
Okay, so who here has reinvented how you onboard remote employees? Anybody got some good tips and tactics? Nobody? Oh, there you go, come on. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Maria Viljog from For Over International. We're a printing company. And now, because of after the pandemic, we have many employees working from home. Like the experience, not the operators, of course, because they have to operate the equipment, but like customer service is something that we were able to hire from home, which was never thought before.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it's been, you know, it has opened other doors, right? So, and especially now with the recruiting. But
Okay.
yeah, for us was positive. Sorry.
It's positive. No, it can be. For my client in New York City, though, as they were planning the return to office, they realized it wasn't just the 75% of new hires who didn't know where the restrooms were or how to use the printer, etc., but for the 25% of employees who had been there but haven't been in the office for 2 years, everybody was on a learning curve. So yes, you can schedule the happy hours either in person or the free breakfasts to try and tempt people back, but there are some tactical transactional steps that we need to be taking. And as we continue to work in a hybrid environment, the suggestion around having an onboarding buddy, I think, is critical. Because otherwise, all I'm doing is sitting in my bedroom, I've joined this brand new company, but it's me, myself, and I. And we wonder why people aren't integrating into the company, why I'm not learning the jargon, why I don't know how and where to go and find in the SharePoint files or whatever a certain document. Well, that learning that would have happened when I just turned to the person next to me is much harder when we are spread by miles, time zones, etc. And it's not enough just to say, welcome to SkyeTeam. Eric is in Avada and Ruby's in Longmont. Feel free to reach out them anytime you want. Because as the newbie, we run the risk of the same comment we heard earlier as, well, I can't call them, they're busy, they're going to think that I'm interrupting them. So we don't, but having a buddy saying, hey, you need to meet Eric and Ruby, and making the email introduction or the Slack introduction, opening the doors, holding people's virtual hand, makes a huge difference and shortens that time to feeling like I belong, and I'm starting to understand the cultural norms of what does it take to do business and to be successful in this organization. So we're going to do a quick activity. How many here are sitting next to, and I know you are, all right, how many of you are sitting next to somebody from your company or somebody you know? Yeah, see, we're going back into pre-pandemic bad habits. So I want you now to make eye contact with somebody in this room not at your table, and not the lady over there that works with you either, all right? Because I'm watching you. So you ignore what your mother told you about stranger danger. I want you to pick the bestest looking stranger, the curiousest looking stranger in this room, and go and pair up, and I just want you to introduce yourselves and find one thing, one way you can help each other to succeed. So stand up, move, find somebody, introduce yourselves. All right, start wrapping up. Start wrapping up. Thank you for playing. Fine, I know you could keep going all morning, couldn't you? Sit down. There you go.
Pretty busy. Yes. Oh my God, are they?
All right, I'm going to introduce you to the new BFFs. They're going. They're still going. So Debian and Connie, I get that right? So Debian and Connie are now new BFFs who got to meet each other. You see, here's the thing. I asked you to go and meet a stranger, and you all look like deer in headlights going, you want me to do what? And then, of course, it's the, no, I can keep going. I don't want to stop. So who did you meet? What did you learn about each other?
I met Debian. She's the senior HR generalist at her place of work, Ridgewood? East Ridge Retirement Community. And she lives in my old neighborhood. She works in my old neighborhood. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well,
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you caught my eye because you were both laughing so hard and looked like you were having fun. Who else met somebody cool? I know you're all cool kids, so come on, who else met somebody cool? You were one of the first up and one of the first down, so who did you meet, sir?
I met Cynthia.
Which one's Cynthia? Nice to meet you, Cynthia.
Right here.
Yeah.
Learned that she's fairly new to HR.
Congratulations,
But we have some
welcome.
common connections in education.
Okay, excellent. See, and that didn't hurt a bit, and it took all of 2 minutes. So back at your tables, I want you to think about it. If we're going to foster connection for ourselves and for our colleagues, then we need scheduled spontaneity, much like you just did. So I want you to just take 2 minutes at your table. For those online, start typing into the chat. How many suggestions and how many ways can you, or do you already, help to foster connection at work? And then I'll take some examples from the room. Go. I'm going to keep drinking your water. Oh, you're fine. Thank you for being so chatty. It helps. Thank you. We'll do it. Keep going. I love your curls. Well, thank you. I'll trade. You can have the accent and I'll take the curls. So what are you coming up with as to how you can foster connection?
We work together. She definitely brought up the fact of having an onboarding buddy.
Yeah.
So we call for people that have been there for 3 years, OGs.
Yeah.
So like an OG with like a new G.
Okay. OG and new G.
I group them together. So someone who's been there for a long time and someone who's brand new kind of talk about that. That's in your department that you gravitate towards random selection.
Okay, thank you. I'll probably come and pick on this table in a moment. Are you sitting on your own? Why are you sitting on your own?
You got here a little bit late. I'm down from Palm Plugged in over there. I couldn't sleep last night because I was so excited to be here. So I wanted to sleep until as late as I could, like 6, and then get everything going.
Well, if you want to join this table, I know this chair is empty because it's got my stuff around it. So feel free to slot yourself in. They're a friendly crowd.
When I got here, I went up earlier to see who was. I know one person is here. She's a good friend.
Please do come in and join and make love. All right. I'm keeping our wonderful AV crew on their toes here with the turn it up, turn it down. All right, so how many ways for scheduled spontaneity, how many ways can you foster and do you foster connection at work today? And I'm going to start with my friends here. Mic drop moment, there you go. Give me your suggestions.
Yes, so one thing that we were just powwowing is everybody's so busy. We work in a startup, like it's constant chaos. And when we onboard folks, we just throw you right into the fire after your first day. And how do I now foster what we call like people who've been with us a while, they're OGs. How do we bring new Gs into the fold and build buddy systems? So not someone from your team, but randomly selecting someone from another department saying, hey, you're gonna be mentor guide for our new G coming in to help them learn about the business, somebody they can go to, questions, how do I get this, to create a better onboarding experience.
And what I like about that is you said mentors from other departments. Because if you thought you had politics, silos, and turf wars before the pandemic, imagine if you've got an employee base of 3,000, all working from 3,000 bedrooms, you now have 3,000 silos that we need to try and connect and bring closer together. Oh, you want a second go?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Sorry. Also, sometimes you don't interact with other departments, period.
Yes.
HR we typically do because, onboarding, benefits, everything, they will all come to you, but accounting never talks to procurement. Sometimes they do and other people do, but some people don't. So you're kind of connecting people from other departments as well.
Absolutely. And now, what makes it less scary, it's not me, Morag, calling a complete stranger within the company and worrying about, are you thinking, why are you bothering me? It's because HR told me. Or it was because the facilitator said, go meet a stranger. You now have implicit, explicit permission to do it. It becomes part of how you do business. Now I feel like I belong. What about from this table? Give me a couple of suggestions here. And then, Gillian, I'm going to come online if you have any suggestions from online.
Hi. We spoke about resource groups.
Ooh, say more.
No.
Okay, no, done.
Basically, just a group within a company that have similar interests, kind of like the pins that were given out front. That you can bring in other people, or if somebody's interested in that topic, then they can join, and it's voluntary and.
Okay, so which pins did you pick?
The wine enthusiast.
How many wine enthusiasts? Anybody else pick that one? Yep, there you go.
The yogi.
The yogi. Any other bendy people in the room?
Just me.
Yoga. There's one behind.
And
a
pet
yoga.
owner.
And a pet owner. So you a dog or a cat?
Dog.
A dog. You're not an iguana owner then, because it's Miami. Didn't I see something about iguanas being set free here? Okay, so dog lovers here. All right, let's go to this table. What other suggestions do you have? And I haven't forgotten online. I had promised next.
One suggestion that our team did coming off remote to doing a hybrid schedule. We go to the office 3 days a week, 2 days remote. We made Tuesday, we called it One Team Tuesday, where everybody's supposed to be in the office just to foster that connection.
Yes.
And have your team meetings in person. That's what we did, as well as your collaborative meetings. And I think people really appreciated that coming out of the pandemic and just being able to have that connection.
So it's the One Team Tuesdays. I love that because there's nothing worse than coming into the office on my day and spending it on Zoom because everybody else is out of the office. So that builds alignment. And it allows, as leaders, though, not to just fill it 9 to 5, 8 till 6 with non-stop meetings because we're together. It's also allowing us to chill and hang out and get reconnected as human beings that matter. Gillian, what do you have online? Or Alex, yeah.
Yeah, we have some great discussions online. Hilda suggests weekly calls with different groups, manager meetings, team Zoom, interactive games, and Bagel Wednesdays.
Bagel Wednesdays, okay.
And then we have from Amelia, there is a virtual Friday coffee clutch for those who miss the in-person connections.
Okay, so lots of things that don't require a lot of money or time investment, but just thoughtful, deliberate opportunities. And the benefits are huge. When we feel connected, when we feel like we belong, collaboration and teamwork goes up. When we feel connected, when we feel like we belong, our overall happiness, not just at work, but with life, goes up. And ultimately, when we feel connected, when we feel like we belong, engagement goes up. And when engagement goes up, mistakes go down, accidents go down, Productivity goes up. You've seen it. Which brings me to the Gallup survey. So how many of you here do engagement surveys of one form or another? Then you'll be familiar that Gallup has been studying engagement for more than 20 years. And of the 12 questions, question number 10 is, do I have a best friend at work? Well, in my new book, You, Me, We, that Eric, Ruby, and I have written, because we are better together, I'm challenging this question. I think it's the wrong question. Bold assertion, I realize, Morag versus Gallup. But here's my challenge with that question. It allows me to sit back and say, no. No, I don't have a best friend at work because Alex got the promotion I should have done. Amy got the funding for her project that my project should have done. Nobody has called me in the last month to see how I'm doing. No, I don't have a best friend at work. It feels to me passive and reactive. The question we should be asking, and the question we're going to explore for the remainder of today, is, am I a best friend at work? Because if you want to have a friend, you need to be a friend. You need to go first and not wait for the mysterious they to show up at the door to make a difference. If you're feeling disconnected, isolated, then pick up the phone, send the Slack message, reach out the hand. Now, if it's rebuffed, then you have a different choice. But if you imagine if everybody on your team was being proactive on how do I show up as a best friend for others and how do I show up as a best friend for me, how quickly could we tap into that 20% increase in collaboration, that 32% increase in engagement, and all experience greater happiness at work and in life? So in our remaining time together, I'm going to share with you our 3 steps for connection. It's as simple as look up, show up, and step up. When I was lying on the patio 3 weeks ago, looking up at the sky, I know that in answer, how do I feel in my own presence? It sucked. I felt drained. I felt sad. I felt overwhelmed. I felt a failure because I wasn't strong enough to keep running at 110 miles an hour. In fact, I should have been proud that I'd run at 110 miles for as long as I did, because I'm a couch potato. I'm an aspiring athlete, not a perspiring athlete. So the first step of building connection is to look up and think about, how do I want others to feel in my presence? Are they energized, inspired, and engaged? Or am I an energy vampire that leaves people confused and down? Most of us want the former, but if we aren't being thoughtful, how do we know what sort of ripple effect and what environment are we creating? So on that note, ripples and joys. You're also getting hands-on experience of very simple techniques that have transformed cultures and teams for our clients and our team. So back at your table, and for those of you online, you can think about and reflect on this and then just type your answers in the chat. At SkyeTeam, we start every single staff meeting with ripples and joys. You may have called it roses and thorns. And when we started it, I thought it was the hokiest thing ever. I thought, this is never going to last. What are we going to share? This isn't going to work. We've now been doing this for 5 years, and I know that but for this and the other tactics we use, the three of us would not have navigated the pandemic as successfully as we did because it deepened our relationships and our understanding. So it's this. We start the meetings with ripples and joys. A ripple can be anything that you've done at work, at home, for a client that's moved a project forward. And then a joy is something that literally has just made you smile or feel uplifted. So at your tables, in the online chat, I want you to share your ripple and joy from the last week. What have you done or achieved that's made you feel proud? And what has brought joy to you or for you, either at home and or at work? So quick, fast, ripples and joys, share around the table, and I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers to share their ripple and joy with the room. Go.
Months of hard work, and we rolled it out June 30th, and I was like, so that brought me both the ripple and the joy. The joy, truly, I'm 5 months pregnant, and I was there. I come from hospitality. I'm not from aviation, and there's night and day, and hospitality is very warm, and it's half of your job to just be nice and be hospitable. So I was used to being very loved at work by the housekeepers, by the cooks, by the bartenders, by the spa therapists. And then I come to aviation, and it's numbers and money. So when I became pregnant, I got to see a different side of everybody in the office. One, coming back to the office, yes, you become more friendly, but then to see everybody's true, genuine sense of care, which I was so used to getting on a daily basis in hospitality. I finally feel the hospitableness in the office I have at AirSale, which is what's that? AirSale. We went public in 2020, so we're very busy. Yes. May I call on you on the debrief? Would you be willing to share that? A contrast between the two, and yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, of course.
Give you one more minute, and then we're going to go straight to the interwebs for the first suggestion. We're going to go online first, and then you.
Sure. I'll probably stand up because I have my back to everybody.
Okay. Giving it's already on. He'll switch it on when I give him a wave. Okay. All right, I know you could keep going. You may have only got halfway round your tables. Gillian, what did we hear from the interwebs? Some ripples and joys from those watching on high. And hi.
We've got some great ones. So one says they start meetings with an affirmation, thank yous, tell us something good, or my why. Another one is they had a great in-person open enrollment meeting for the first time in 2 years. And the last one says they start their day each day with questions of the day, and it could be anything.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Kristen, I heard you tell your story. Would you share with the room here?
I'm going to stand up because I have my back to everyone. My name is Kristen Gallagher. I'm the Human Resources Director at AirSale here in Coral Gables. For Ripple, I shared that we recently just rolled out stock grants to every employee that works for us because we recently went public, and Vanessa, my boss, and I were huge movers of that project, and it was a lot of work, so we were really proud of it. For Joy, I was telling the table that I'm actually from hospitality originally. I've only been in aviation for a year and a couple months. So I'm from a very different culture of everybody, it's really their job to be warm and hospitable and nice, even if they don't like you or if they're scared of you. So I came from 15 years of everybody showing me that every day. In aviation, people are a little more reserved. The work is a lot more intense. It's a lot more independent. So I didn't get to see that side of a lot of people, but I'm very pregnant, and I got to see everybody, once that happened, everybody kind of open up in a different way at work, and it meant the world to me, being in HR and not being the person who just scared everybody anymore, and that everybody would approach and show kindness and genuity and friendliness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
But what I loved about that was it showed the difference in how our organizational cultures can unintentionally cause others, newbies especially, to feel outside versus embracing the inside. And it's the human connection. And having had the opportunity, most of my clients are IT, technology, and engineering leaders. So whether it's high-tech, pharmaceutical, or down in Chile and Peru, where I've worked with gold mining engineers, etc., we still crave human connection. In fact, we had the opportunity to work with an oil and gas client working on a safety leadership program. Not the OSHA type of safety leadership, that's not our remit, but how could they reduce the number of reportable injuries that they were experiencing, especially given in that environment, 80% of the people working on site were actually contractors. So there was no direct line management accountability that could be held. And so as we looked at that program, we took a risk. And we presented an option built around how do we strengthen the relationships with the people in the crew. Because what we discovered was the more that we know, like, and trust each other, the more willing I am to call you out and say, oh, you put your safety glasses on, or you forgot to chock your truck, or whatever it might be. But if I don't know you, if I don't have a connection, then I let things slide. We saw an 18% reduction in reportable injuries after that program. We don't do this as a goal, but we had people in tears as they shared their safety journey and why it mattered for them, when they talked about their families that they were going home to at the end of the day, and why I needed to know that you had my back. Because ultimately we're all human, we're going to forget. But if you're looking out for me and I'm looking out for you, that makes a difference. Let's take one more ripple and joy from another table. Who haven't we heard from here? So you've now subtly taken your coffee, which just means you're a prime target. So give me your ripple and joy then.
Sure. So my name's Jesse. I work for Food and the Poor. One of the best things, I'm new. I just started about 4 months ago. And I've been enjoying my experience for the organization. We are developing a lot of new programs, total reward programs for the team members, from wellness to improving our compensation structure to improving our options during open enrollment. So all those to me I find it exciting and challenging at the same time. The ripples is creating the framework because there's not a real good framework right now. So that's one of the challenges I'm having, but it's a small ripple compared to what the end game is going to be for us. So I'm really looking towards implementing all these new benefits and bringing them to their team members.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So ripples and joys, a powerful way of building human connection and celebrating business success. It gets to both what we're doing and how we're doing. It empowers your team member. They can choose what they share. If I have nothing to share this week, that's fine too. But make it part of the habit. Create the opportunities. I had the opportunity to interview my friend and colleague, Gary Ridge. He's the past president, CEO, and chairman of WD-40 Company. So you're all familiar with WD-40? Excellent. So he, and even in their annual reports, will talk about the importance of the tribe. That is how they refer to the employee base at WD-40. And what Gary and the leadership team there did, they have higher engagement at WD-40 than St. Jude's Hospital. Think about that for a moment. Higher engagement levels at WD-40 that makes lubricant or whatever, water dispelling, we've all done it, on the bikes, on the chain, higher than St. Jude's. And Gary puts that down to the fact that they deliberately and thoughtfully created purpose, created opportunities for employees to feel engaged with everything that they do each day and how it helps serve the business purpose. And when we talk about engagement and discretionary effort, as you can see from this quote from Gary, it is all about the emotional connection at work. And it's not just there. I've seen it transform SkyeTeam. When Eric called me 3 weeks ago, not only did he sense something was up, he made a direct instruction that I had to do something about it. More on that in just a moment. But I have a client, a technology client, who when we first met them, their employee net promoter score was a staggering -2. Just let that sit for a moment. A staggering -2. Let's agree that it was not the most effortless and welcoming of cultures when we first arrived. And what they did is they made a commitment from the CEO right through the organization, and we designed a cohort-based leadership and management program that the CEO and all of the people managers attended. It created a sense of belonging. It provided a common language and framework and created ripples and joys such that the net promoter score that they reported earlier this summer is now +38. And all it took was a choice to step into the human connection, not just the business connection that brought everybody together. So those are a couple of examples of role models for me. Gary Ridge and the WD-40 Company, my client there, the technology client that saw great transformation in their employee net promoter score. Which brings me to the second element of how do you build connection? You have to show up. You have to show up in an intentional way to reach out and build that sense of belonging. So who are your role models? When you think about the colleagues who've made a difference, ooh, it didn't show. That's interesting. In that dramatic white empty spot, there are some words. I want you to think about the heroes and heroines in your lives, the people who have made a difference for you in how you're showing up today. So who are the role models, the heroes and heroines who have helped you to get to where you are today? Just give me a couple of examples. Who's coming to mind for you? You're nodding at me now. Who are you thinking of? Is somebody coming to mind?
I'm actually about my adopted parents because I came to the States. I was adopted by an American family, and my dad and my mom set a big example of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you. All right, who else? That's a powerful one. Who has made a difference in your career? Maybe gave you feedback you needed to hear? Didn't necessarily want to hear, but you needed to hear. Oh, I've got a hand up at the back here. So who are you thinking of as the role model? Who was it and what made them special?
Isidore Sharp was the founder of all the Four Seasons in the world. He's about 93 or 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
He dug out the first motel with his father. He actually dug it out of the ground as a motel.
Wow.
But what he said to me in his first role was, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's how he treated the employees, and that's the role model. If you start there, everything else works out.
Okay, so he gave you an affirmation that has guided how you show up and how you do your work to treat others as you would want to be treated. So turn to somebody at your table, just partners. I just want you to think about who are the heroes, heroines in your career, the people you would jump at the chance to work with again. What makes them special? I'm going to put my timer on for this one. You've got 2 minutes, so fast, fast, fast. All right, start wrapping up. Gillian, I know you've got some comments online of the heroes and heroines for those watching. So what have you got there?
We have several that is their parents, so their mother or their father, and based on their work ethic. We also have my former supervisor who has always treated me as an equal, even when they are mentoring. And my boss is my very first HR job in 1990. She's saying, unfortunately, she passed, but she was amazing.
Yeah. And when these people pass, whether it's they move to a different organization or they leave the universe, etc., it can leave a hole for us. But the key here is showing gratitude and thanks. So I want you to take out your phones. Those of you online, you've already got a tab open, I'm sure, with email. I want you to send a LinkedIn message. I want you to send an email. I want you to send a message to whoever came to mind and say, hey, I'm listening to this facilitator, people who've made a difference in my life, and I thought of you, and here's why. Don't just send them the message. Tell them why they matter to you. Go on, for those of you who are unsure, I dare you, double dog dare you, do it. What's the worst that happens? You get a British-ish type of response of, okay.
Are you okay?
Either way, you've made a deposit into that relationship bank account. For those who've moved on, send a message to the universe. But when we show gratitude, when we say thank you, it helps me to know that I've been seen. I belong, and we now have a stronger tie and connection, all because you chose to go first and acknowledge the impact that I was having with and for you. I have done this exercise with thousands of leaders around the world. If you get a reply, I want you to stop the show and tell me what you said, because I get goosebumps. But there's a counterpoint to this. It's sending the thank you, but the third element about stepping up is whatever you admire in the people who made a difference for you are the values that are going to be important to you. And so my question is, are you stepping up to be a role model for others? Are you paying attention to who's lying on their deck at 3 o'clock at the afternoon and not online and may need a call just to check in on how I'm doing? Are you paying attention in the office to see who's sitting out on their own because they're new and the cliques are forming and everybody's rebonding like they've missed each other for 2 years, but they don't have the courage to step into the conversation? Then I challenge you to go first and bring them into the conversation. And the piece of medicine for me as a role model is the next time I find myself lying on my deck is not to wait the 40 minutes of feeling overwhelmed and paralyzed. I could have, next time I will, send a flare to my team that says, I need help. Or, hey, I'm going to take the rest of the afternoon. I'm going to take me time. Because if we all keep giving, we're going to continue to drain our own bucket. We're not going to be in a position to help others. So how did I show up differently when Eric called me? He told me I had to take some time off and do something fun. Of course, my first reaction was like, I don't have time for fun. There's so much work that needs to be done. But I tell you what I did do. I went to Winter Garden Theatre because I happened to be going to New York for a client the following week, and I saw Hugh Jackman in The Music Man. It was amazing. He was amazing. I wrote if you go onto my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the post that came up, filling my bucket with 76 trombones. Because it didn't just fill my bucket, it overflowed my bucket. And the message to me as a musician, as a ballroom dancer who's done neither for 2.5 years, other than a quick shimmy around the kitchen, is it feeds my soul. And so when I left that theatre, that show, I'm getting goosebumps now, I have made a commitment to myself that I am going to be doing it on a more frequent basis than every 3 years. Because if I don't, my ability to show up as my best suffers. So I want you to think about what you could do to fill your bucket, to show up as the best version of you. Feedback is great. Oh, you should have spoken up more. Your presentation missed the point. No, back. Can't do anything about the past. All we can control is the here and now and the future. So I want you to pick a something that is going to make you a better HR professional if you learn this skill, or a better human because you're filling your bucket with something you're passionate about. And then I'm going to ask you to get up and speak to as many people in this room as you can. And it will go something like this. How can I get more music into my life? And you're going to give me your first best suggestion. And I just get to say thank you. And then you tell me what you want to get better at. And I give you my suggestion. And then we go and find somebody else. I want to get better at music. And you give me your suggestion. I say thank you. And then you tell me yours. What we don't do is say, oh no, that'll never work because I live in the boonies, I can't get to the theatre. We don't say, oh, I tried it in 2020 and it won't work now. We just say thank you. This is not about judging the quality of the conversations and the suggestions. It is about listening and bringing it on board. All right, so for those online, I don't know, we can go for a chat melee. Ask a question, how do I get better at? And pick whichever answers come back that kind of fill the gap. We'll see. Question or clarification? Oh, we've got a reply from the text. Can we put the hand mic on? Hang on. There we go.
It says, oh my God, you made my day. But the truth is, I'm so grateful to get to work with you and have you in my life.
See, I'm going to well up. That is the power of connection. That is the power of connection. It took you 2 seconds to do it, but it will have a ripple effect for days and weeks, not just for you now, but for all of us who heard that message. Thank you. All right. So back to the task at hand. Do you all have a something? Either a personal fill my bucket, I want to get more of this in my life, or a skill that's going to make me a better HR professional. Everybody got at least one thing. All right, stand up, talk to as many people. Ask, give, share, repeat. Go. Thank you, Connie. Thank you. "30 seconds. "10 seconds. All right, take a seat. All right, take a seat. How many of you got a new suggestion that you hadn't considered before? Yay! How many of you got a reminder of something you know you should be doing but are not doing? Yay! All right. And just give me a quick thumbs up or thumbs down. Was that activity fun? Thumbs up? Or see, look, thumbs up. I can see it all through the back. And again, it was easy. It didn't require a lot of time and effort, though it was interesting to me from here to notice the hesitation that reoccurred to go up and talk to people to ask for their feedback. And so as HR professionals, often we spend time crafting the policy, creating the system, building the management training. If we build it, they will come. And sometimes they don't. We need to go first and role model even when it feels awkward. We need to encourage and keep asking and inviting people in if we want to build that connection of culture, that culture of connection and belonging. Gillian, I know you had some suggestions from the interwebs. What did you see there?
Yeah, we had lots of questions as well as recommendations. There's one that says, I want to get better at networking, and she had a couple responses. One was send one LinkedIn request to someone who interests you every week. And another response was join your local business chamber and attend all in-person meetings.
Okay, I'm going to challenge that person who wanted to get better at networking. Connect with me on LinkedIn. For those of you who want to get better at networking and elevate your small talk, because as much as I do these big things, I find small talk very stressful, there is a great book called The Fine Art of Small Talk by Deborah Fine, D-E-B-R-A, F-I-N-E. She describes herself as a recovering engineer, but she has this really quick read, fantastic resource all about how do you start and how do you exit gracefully from small talk conversations at work and at conferences like this. So 2 additional suggestions there. I have provided some additional resources at this URL, but if you give me a few minutes, I am going to go and add, when I get my laptop switched on, the articles that I mentioned from Gallup and from BetterUp so that you've got those resources too around building community. So if you just write down the URL skyeteam.cloud/UKG, you'll find everything there. But as we start to come to the end of our time together, I'm going to be around for the rest of the day. So for those of you in the room, feel free to stop if you have questions. And for those of you who are attending remotely, I've been handing out some advanced copies of my new book, You, Me, We, because it doesn't actually publish until October 18th. So for those of you online, for the first 6 people who email me, I will send you a complimentary copy, either by ebook or a physical copy, whatever is your preference. So email me, morag@skyeteam.com, and I will get those books out to you. So for the rest of you, I'll be here for the rest of today. But I want you to start thinking now. How can you be a better boss, colleague, partner, and friend to those who live, work with, and for you? In the 90 minutes we've had together, you may not have realized, we've done more than 6 exercises that bring you together and start to build connection. We did ripples and joys. We talked about the emotional impact of what does it feel like when we're disconnected, but you think about the emotions we experienced when Connie shared her reply to her heroine message. You think about the emotions you've experienced as you've made tentative connections here in the room today. That's what we want to tap into. We use the heroine and the hero exercise to think about the role models in your own career and feed forward to help you to build the skills and to fill your bucket in a way that allows you to show up at your best. And the howdy stranger, well, that's what we are in. We are in the people business within human resources. And whatever your mother told you about be aware of strangers, you have to put that to one side. Because you are the ambassadors for your organization. You are the ambassadors for the team. And wouldn't it be great if we could start from a basis of trust and connection versus suspicion and keeping each other at arm's length? Ultimately, creating a culture of connection and belonging is a daily practice. You don't do it once on a Thursday afternoon at the Biltmore and you're done. It is about being thoughtful and deliberate in every Zoom meeting, in every face-to-face meeting, in every interaction with the staff here. And so my challenge to you, it's time for you to look up. How do others feel in your presence? How do you feel in your own presence? To show up, to be intentional, whether it's by Zoom or in 3 dimensions. How do I need to show up in this conversation to achieve the business goals, but also to nurture that sense of connection? And then ultimately, I challenge you to step up, to do it, to make it a daily practice. Because when you do, when you are the best version of you, you enable me to be the best version of me. And that's when we become better together. Thank you.